Welcome to the Digging Trenches podcast, where we seek to give you tangible steps to help you to raise your children to follow Jesus all of their days. Today, we're talking about one of the most important things you can do to raise your children in the Lord, and that is pray for them. That's our discussion today. But I want to take a minute and let you know we are filming in our brand new youth room that we have kids ages 6th through 12th grade in. 7th through 12th on Sunday mornings for Sunday school at 10 a.m. But every Wednesday night, we'll have kids in here 6th through 12th grade. We have them a meal, and that begins at 6:30 each Wednesday night. If you do not have a child plugged into a local church or into a local youth group, we would love to have them here with us then on Sunday mornings or on Wednesday nights. Today, I'm joined by Pastor Nathan Lawrence. He is the lead pastor here at Valley Baptist Church. Thank you for joining me on our colorful seating here.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a lovely room. Real quick, tell me about, I guess, your parenting background. So you have 5 children at home.
I do. My youngest is 6, and my oldest will be 16 in 2 days.
All right. Wow. So nobody's worried about the road conditions out there. We shouldn't.
Yeah, no, you need to be worried.
And how long have you been married?
Been married 18 years. A little over 18 years. So.
Digging Trenches is all about tangible, real things you can do, answering the question. I know the Bible tells me that I'm the lead evangelist, the lead discipler for my child. How do I do that? What am I supposed to do? Digging Trenches is a podcast hoping to answer that question. So what I've found, I like to be a hands-on person, especially in spiritual things. What I find is that prayer is almost never the first thing that comes to mind. But in planning out how to help people to disciple their kids, I wanted to make sure that prayer stayed at the very top of things that need to be discussed. So briefly, even before talking about kids in particular, in your ministry, in your family life and all that, how has prayer played a part in your life as a Christian?
Yeah. I think the older I get, the more I see prayer as vital. I would have answered the right answer 20 years ago, but I think the older I get, the more I am reliant on prayer and just seeing it as an integral part, as it is the fuel that provides for everything else, in my faith, in my walk, in my relationships, and trying to get it to be more and more of the reflex of my response. So I just think that it's absolutely critical, parenting, marriage, ministry, everything.
So really digging into parenting, how have you seen, you've been a parent now for almost 16 years, how have you seen prayer be an integral part in your parenting?
I think that prayer is really one of the unique things that we have that can bring our faith into real life and make it a little more tangible for our kids. For example, just when you are dealing with a kid that has anxiety, and they're nervous about a test, they're nervous about going to take a permit test, whatever it is they're nervous about, like, it is such a great opportunity to say, let's stop and pray about that. And it, not that I do that perfectly every time, but taking advantage of those moments when they're fearful or anxious or even excited, and bringing faith into it through prayer is a great way to do that, and trying to teach them that is the right response in all situations. Is prayer.
So in helping people understand, when we talk about prayer, I've wanted to, I guess, lean into 3 different avenues. So praying one-on-one with the Lord, you and your personal prayer life, praying for your kids, praying with your spouse if you're married, praying with your spouse for your kids, but also, as you mentioned, praying with your kids. So I've found 1 and 3 incredibly easy. It's so easy. I hate to even put it this way, but kind of, you're praying, even this morning, praying for things, and then also making sure it's a discipline. I'm going to pray for my wife and kids while I'm doing this. And then it's really easy to set up a prayer schedule. I have small kids in my home, so praying before bedtime, praying before meals, anything. I found that easy, but one I found extremely hard is having a regular discipline of praying with my wife for our children. Um, Maybe I'm setting up unrealistic expectations in my own marriage, but have you found that to be a challenge in your marriage, in your home, or has any of the other ones been harder to come to for you?
Yeah. I do think that praying with your spouse can be a challenge.
Mm,
I mean, it's not the actual act of praying with my wife that is hard. She
mm,
makes it easy, but just keeping it front of mind,
mm,
taking the initiative, finding the time.
yeah.
Those are the things that can be a challenge. Um, the benefit that I have is we both tend to have our quiet times in the morning at the same
Mm,
time. And so we're sitting on opposite ends of a couch on the front porch. So it's not real hard for me to look over and say, hey, you want to pray together?
right.
It's not a massive challenge, but
Mm,
still, even with that, I mean, we don't pray together every single day,
mm,
but when we do that, it's helpful,
yeah.
and it's good, and to pray for our kids in that. And I would, just a little bit of practical husband wife dynamics. I would challenge the men to be the initiator of that.
Mm,
That it is your job as a spiritual leader to look at your wife and say, "Hey, let's pray
right.
together." And I would encourage the wives just to be appreciative of any efforts they make in that.
Hmm.
It's not always easy for the man
Right.
to step out in that way and try to lead, and so just to be encouraging, but also one thing that I've seen a lot is women when they pray tend to more naturally pray longer.
Hmm.
Men, we typically have fewer words for
Right.
everything, stereotypically, not always, but stereotypically. And so men pray first, and wives, I would just encourage you to maybe try to mirror the length of time the husband prays,
Right.
because
That's good.
one of the things that can be intimidating to a man is if he's praying and he doesn't feel like he's good at praying out loud,
Mm,
and he stumbles through a 45-second prayer, and then his wife prays a beautiful, eloquent
right.
10-minute prayer, he's may not be real likely
Yeah.
to initiate that again. So just for wives to be recognizing that the husband is trying,
Yeah.
and and
Absolutely.
and be appreciative of that. And it can be a challenge to pray with kids,
Mm,
but I don't think that. I think praying with spouse is usually harder. Praying
mm,
alone is probably the easiest. You can do
right.
that anytime, anywhere. But
Okay. So let's say somebody hears this. They're checking off all the boxes. They're praying uh, alone. They're praying with their spouse. They're praying with their kids. Awesome. What are some of the things we should be praying? Like the content of those prayers. What should that be covering when we do pray for our kids?
yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing is we know our kids pretty well.
Mm,
We don't know everything, but we know them better than anybody else,
right.
and so we really can tailor the prayers to what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And certainly, you know, the first chunk of their life, you're praying for their salvation.
Mm,
Lord, lay the foundation now.
right.
Use us to help them understand your love, help them understand your grace, help them understand you're real. And that foundation then can be built upon with more practicals, and more of a deeper understanding of the gospel as they get into those elementary school aged years. And you can try to build on that, and certainly salvation is going to be a primary prayer until
Mm,
until they're saved. And then after that, for my kids, I want this faith to be real to them.
mm,
And I think the teenage years really, from what I've gathered from others, I'm not there
mm.
yet, really until they go to college, that's where they usually start making their faith their own.
That's right.
Now in high school, there are beginnings to do that for
Mm,
sure. And so that's a lot of my prayer for my kids that are saved is, that this would be real to them.
yeah.
That, I've prayed with a kid that was nervous for a test and said amen. And at the end they said, well, but I'm still nervous. I was like, well,
Mm,
yes.
yeah.
Prayer doesn't fix it
That's right.
instantly. It doesn't always take away the anxiety, but we know God's with us on the test. We
Mm,
know that even if we fail the test, God still loves us, and
right.
we can work those things in. And just trying to help that faith be real in their hopes and their dreams and their anxieties and their
Mm,
relationships and in all of the things they're dealing with as they're growing and developing. that's really a lot of what I pray for.
Mm-hmm.
When my kids have challenges, I'm praying that God would give us
Absolutely.
wisdom to help
Yeah.
and give them strength. I mean, it's very practically this morning on the way to school. It's a super easy time to pray with kids. They're in the
Mm-hmm.
car, they're stuck. I was praying for them and just praying that God would be with them. Today was the first day of school, ease their anxiety, give them strength, help them to be light,
Mm.
salt and light in the school. Just whatever
Okay.
it is they're dealing with.
I found that, at least for my kids at a young age, the content of my prayer is teaching them how to pray deeply. So I've learned through them, because they like to pray sometimes too, that apparently all of my prayers start with, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for our family. Because that's the first thing they say. And then the rest is just kind of mumbled. And then amen right at the end. It's lovely. So, have you continue on? Have you ever scheduled times of prayer with your kids? So, it's easy to do bedtime. So it would, if you're not praying with your kids at all right now, start with bedtime. It's just kind of the easiest flow. But outside of things like that, do you have any sort of schedule throughout the week or throughout the month to pray with your kids?
Yeah, I mean, the bedtime routine is
Mm,
certainly good. I have two teenagers at home. The
right.
bedtime routine's a little different. I
Correct.
don't tuck them in at night. If I walked in there and tried to lay in the bed with them and pray with them,
Yeah.
they would probably think I was weird, which is probably true. But so I don't do that so much with the older ones. But on the way to school,
Mm,
that's super easy. Certainly with meals,
mm,
that nobody wants a 20-minute prayer before they eat.
right.
So, you got to be mindful of the time a little bit. But that is a natural time that you can easily pray with them. And then, other than those two scheduled times, really it's just trying to find whenever things come up in life that, like,
That's right.
as you go,
Mhm.
as Deuteronomy talks about, trying to make that a normal pattern. And I think in seasons I'm really good at that, and then there's seasons where I'm
Mhm.
not as good at that. But that's what that's been my schedule
That's
with
right.
with the kids, on the way to school, bedtime, meals.
Mm. So not so much getting stressed out about, have I prayed with my kids today? Have I? But really, kind of being in the moment, being faithful in the moment. Of
Mm.
my child's having a test they're really stressing about, or there's a friendship that's kind of broken at school. Taking those opportunities, being spiritually aware, I guess, of recognizing a hardship or something that your kid is facing, and then owning that moment and handling it faithfully. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
What are some hindrances that you have found in your experience that keeps you from praying with your kids, with your spouse, whatever it might be? And any thoughts there?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the biggest hindrance, honestly, is in my own mind,
Mm,
is just, where my distraction,
right,
not being as focused on, taking advantage of those moments.
right,
That's certainly number one.
mm,
Certainly your children,
right.
when they're younger, just getting them to focus or settle or realize,
Mm,
they're going to do silly things while you pray, and not,
that's right.
they're going to distract you and themselves. That's just natural
Mm,
part of it. So those are hindrances. And then, you know, when you when you blow it as a parent,
yeah,
um, and then you're trying to be humble and recognize that, and then that they're like looking at you and like, you want to pray with me now after you just did
right.
that, there's that natural hypocrisy
Yeah.
of, I've not arrived, I'm not perfect.
Hmm.
They see that, they know that. I think those are the main hindrances.
Hmm.
But I really do think the biggest one is just my lack of focus. And
Mm,
there's seasons I'm really focused and better, and there's seasons where I'm more distracted, and I do it less because
yeah.
it's just not front of mind.
Yeah, I found, and this is more of an internal one of, I don't want to bother anybody. So it might just be my personality, but when my kids are busy doing something or they really want to go watch a show or play a game, I don't want to be that person to be like, "Hey, let's stop real quick and pray." Or especially with having small kids in the home right now, bedtime feels like you're crossing a finish line.
Mm.
So when my wife is ready to relax on the couch, watch a show, whatever it might be, I don't want to be that guy to be like, hey, honey, I know you just had a full day, but let's take some time and pray together. So, for my sake, I feel like I just need to be more bold in those scenarios. What would you say to someone recognizing that, whether it's an internal battle or that need for a husband, a father in the home to step up and do that? What would your encouragement be for them?
Yeah, I mean, it would be to be bold. I mean,
Mm,
I totally identify with that. It's that internal struggle
mm,
is the biggest hindrance.
yeah,
And I'm in professional ministry. Like I pray in front of people all the time, so I'm not so much nervous about the actual prayer,
right.
but it still can be a little bit daunting to ask. You're still
Mm,
putting yourself out there. But I know for a lot of men that don't pray in front of people a lot, just praying out loud is intimidating,
yeah.
and I know that that can be a hard thing to overcome, but being the spiritual leader and being that spiritual layer of protection over your family where they hear you pray out loud for them
Mm,
is so important and can bring such a level of security to
mm,
them that their hearts crave. And so my encouragement would just be recognize, even though we're inserting ourselves into life, even though they may be tired, even though it may not be the best moment, even though you may not do it as well as you think you should, or as
right.
well as you've heard other people do it, just keep doing it,
That's
and
right.
you'll get better, and it'll be easier, and it'll be more natural, and more than likely your family will respond better over time.
Mm,
Anytime you do something for the first time, everybody's kind of like, what is this,
right.
but
Right.
once the 10th time, they're not surprised
Mm,
and they're not taken aback.
absolutely. Habits have a powerful way of forming over some time, and that leads to a good segue for our 30-day challenge. So each at the end of each session of digging trenches that we've hosted in person, I've always ended with a challenge. So I give you this challenge for the next 30 days. Whether it's you as the husband, you as the wife, come together with your spouse and decide for the next 30 days, at least once a day, we're going to partner together and we're going to pray together out loud for our kids. So, whether if they are believers, pray for their growth in the faith. If they're not believers, pray for them to be saved. And for the next 30 days, spend that and see if a habit forms. As we've said, it's not a legalistic, I have to do this every day or I'm failing as a parent. That is not the case. But this is intentionally knowing that prayer is a work that we have to do together. So for the next 30 days, I challenge you to pray together for your kids. So, Pastor Nathan, thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting with us. And
Thank you.
right on.